Hello everyone! As mentioned, April is a time of revisitation, and much like last year, it's time to actually do some cleanup from some of our older baggage. Specifically, it's time to delve again into the wonderful, wacky world of M.Night Shyamalan. Last year,
Oh
it
boy.
was with Signs, which I think was 2002. So, what did he do 2 years afterward? Still a touchstone slash Buena Vista for Disney. This is 2004's The Village. This is quite basically considered by pretty much everyone the breaking point. Science still is more divisive, and as I personally stated, I still do enjoy it to a certain degree. But this, you will find, hard pressing, a lot of people, any kind of people who actually like it. I'm pretty sure there are fans of this movie in general, but this is the point where many people were basically saying, yeah, that's it. That he's gone. We cannot reach him anymore.
And this is a special case because this is what I like to call a retroactive failure. Because, for all intents and purposes, when the movie came out, it was a box office hit and success. So much so that Disney were willing to fund its next movie. A bit more on that later. Let's keep it on this for now. But yeah, no, in spite of this being a box office success for the time, it's now widely regarded as the turning point where Shyamalan went from being what people considered the next Spielberg to, well, being a running punchline, essentially, with ego to match.
hmm Specifically, the budget was 71.7 million, which, yeah, to be fair, there is not that much use of CGI or effects in this, so it's most about, the setting and the casting. And recouping was 256, so technically successful, though I argue still more tepid compared to Signs. So you can tell the Signs,
Yes,
the,
yeah.
the, the telling was already there when less people started, going to see it.
I
But
guess you could say it was the sign of trouble ahead.
But what is this
Uh-huh.
movie about? Oh boy, it's complicated, but for the time being, all you need to know is about a small Amish community, or at least people similar to Amish, that has to deal with mysterious forces that surround their village in the middle of the forest. That's what technically you need to know. We can tell more about the casting, later because this movie has a fuck ton of important, people that are known. Just a warning before we start, because I think it's appropriate. This movie contains at certain points scenes where animals are basically skinned, not on camera, but you get to see what the body looks like. So if you're particularly squeamish on that front, well, be forewarned to, divert your eyes. But on the more serious side, this movie contains very, very bad depiction of disabilities, both physical in terms of blindness and, psycho-emotional. You'll be able
Oh
to see.
boy.
You're again. It's just in case of warning you. It's one of those things that
Imagine.
Tropic Thunder was trying to tell us, and we didn't listen. Anyway, good news. Since this was still in the period where Shyamalan was working for Touchstone in Buena Vista, this is too on Disney Plus. So once again, picture what you're about to see as a plot for a Kingdom Hearts world. Start before the Touchstone picture, the Thunder, usual logo, in 3, 2, 1, click. So
That said, if
Pedro,
you're watching this in the US, you're probably using a VPN because, as of the time of this recording, it's not available in the
not
US
even the
region
Hulu
for Disney
section.
Plus. Nope. The Village is not on our
I
version of
guess the
Disney Plus,
mentality is that the
surprisingly.
Disney Plus in America is mostly reserved for lesser than T and E type of movies.
Oh
While
no. There's some gory stuff on Disney Plus too, albeit most of it is via Hulu, but you can technically watch Hulu
so
stuff on
this
Disney
technically
Plus
should be
too.
there, but it's not for some reason. Yeah, we have people
Yeah.
like Joaquin Phoenix, Bryce Dallas Howard. I think
Who
he's
will
doing.
later be
Uh
buried in the water as well.
Mm-hmm. And Adrian
Adrian
Brody,
Brody,
From the
who would
pianist.
later be in
which
Predators,
yeah,
let's
well, I think PPN was actually better. Sigourney Weaver, okay,
Yeah.
and the late William Hurt.
Uh,
What a
I'm
bland
sorry.
title. Um,
I'm I'm
Also
sorry. We see
Brendan
about stuff in
Gleeson.
I'm sorry, we seem to have stepped into the prototype for the opening of Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow.
Anyway, Pedro,
Yeah.
as per usual, since you literally had the pleasure, I guess we can call it that, to literally watch the car crash in slow motion that was M.Night Shyamalan's career, happening.
Also, Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, one of his
That's-
early roles,
Why is
actually.
he here?
It's actually one of his
Well,
early roles.
This is one of his early roles.
I can tell
so.
you, he's actually one of the better actors in this, which says a lot. So, how was your theater experience?
Oh, it was mostly just normal and boring because the movie is very quiet and dull, and as a
Yeah.
result, the audience wasn't exactly, cheering or anything like that.
Yeah, not even
So-
kidding. If you thought the sign was basically people on tranquilizer for most of the time, this takes it to a whole new level.
The big problem with Shyamalan is that this is something that is very common in a lot of his movies. Not all of them, but most of them. For whatever reason, the characters in his movies, like especially this one, are always just so dead, barely awake human beings with no warmth in their bones.
Don't you see, Pedro? That's the miracle of his directing to show you that we're truly dead inside. Is
Like-
probably what he would say to excuse
For
this
a beginning
movie.
scene like this, I will understand because this is supposed to be a funeral, but there are moments where the characters are supposed to be in more happy, pleasant times, and yet their delivery is still very stilted.
Yeah, it's because
Right.
I have no idea. Like maybe this is the way Shyamalan sees the world, but I don't really like when I go out into the world. I don't really see that. Like I don't think that's an accurate depiction of humankind, to be honest.
And
I mean, the thing is,
tombstone providently tells us that the person in the coffin was a child.
I mean, I've seen Unbreakable, and like that didn't have his usual actor problems. So, man, okay. My best guess is after he was praised as the next coming of Spielberg. God, I wonder how that magazine feels nowadays. But regardless, I get the feeling that inflated his ego enough to the point where he figured he could do no wrong. So that's when he decided to experiment, per se.
There's Jesse Eisenberg on the right.
Oh, God.
Like I
It's
said,
weird
this was
how he
actually very early in his
simultaneously-
career. Not his first role,
What?
but...
My favorite has always been that when that started happening, he got into his own ego trip that he was the new Hitchcock, and then when The Village came out and it was panned, for example, there's actually a book about this matter, believe it or not. Let me get.
And
it.
yeah, Adrian Brody has to play the town's fool, basically. Clearly someone with some form of, presence on the spectrum. But as per Hollywood tradition, as detailed as mentioned in Tropic Thunder under the section Simple Jack, this is not really handled well.
Did they actually go out of their way to say that he's on the spectrum, or is he just the comic relief for this movie? As far as the movie tells
you
us.
see, Jova, what they do with him.
Right. Yes. Okay. I should let anyone who's new to us know I was on the original commentary, but that was pretty much Pedro's way of showing me the library of M. Night Shyamalan. I still have not seen Sixth Sense, but I digress. But B, the movie was not that memorable.
No, The Sixth Sense is,
So,
I will argue, his best movie.
Oh yes. It's just like I was just saying that's one of the few movies you haven't shown me of his yet. But what I'm getting at is like, well, from what I recall, this movie is not that memorable. I do remember the bad bits because, well, they're probably the most memorable this movie does get. But the movie as a whole, I would fail at trying to give a full-on plot synopsis.
Yeah, I was going to say there's only one bit in this movie that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, there's this book called The Man Who Heard Voices, or How M. Night Shyamalan Risked His Career on a Fairy Tale, which talks
Oh.
about how Lady in the Water got made. according to him, okay, the author, by the way, is Michael Bamberger. Basically, it boils down to the fact that again, the whole thing where he went to Warner Brothers and he got angry just because Disney laughed at the concept of
Yeah.
Water. They were still going to greenlight it, like Jova said earlier.
But I took it personally.
You took
Imagine
it. The thing about
Imagine turning down full funding from Disney, and there was nothing to suggest they were going to even meddle with his vision. They were still going to let him do whatever because he was enough of a success in their eyes. And this is definitely at a point where Disney had the money to fund that 100 times over, but he just left because they dared to
say,
much
look,
as
it
doubt his
sounded
vision.
silly. Yeah, like it paints Shyamalan as an incredibly overly sensitive, thin-skinned person. To be honest with you,
And surprise, surprise, I don't think Disney have ever really funded any more of his projects since. Like, anything he's done with Disney has been self-funded, which is kind of his MO.
retroactively acquiring the happening with the Fox package.
yeah.
Although, sadly, nowadays, he kind of has to self-fund most of his movies because most companies at this point don't want to take that gamble on funding it.
But most of the book talks about specifically the making of Lady in the Water, and it highlights how he took the reception of the village, the critical reception of the village, very personally. Not surprising there, considering what we already know now, right? And that explains a lot about Lady in the Water. Let's face it.
How old is this book?
It came out in 2006, actually, the same
Why
year
were we-
that
That's
the movie
it,
came out.
yeah. That's it earlier. Why were we watching the back of William Hurt's head?
Because it was important that he was lecturing the class. Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix, he pretty much doesn't really play the role of a protagonist, but something close to that. It's really clear that the movie wants for a while to be decentralized, just to say the community as a whole, to try to have a bit of screen time to everyone to settle things in, but eventually it will settle on a main character.
I gotta say, this is one of the weirdest castings that I've seen in a movie. Not in the sense that it's a bad casting choice, but it's just a cast that feels like... yeah, it feels like a random cast that M. Night picked because, I can get this most famous person in my movie, essentially. Like, if I recall correctly, this was around the height of William Hurt's career, so of course, Bryce Dallas Howard was just coming in.
Joaquin Phoenix was in the previous movie, so he had a bit of an experience with M. Night.
Yeah, that was kind of a pattern of M. Night's, where he would get an actor from his previous movie to later star in his subsequent movie. Like Joaquin Phoenix with this, Bryce Dallas Howard with Lady in the Water. And, well, Noah Ringer did not come back after Last Airbender, shock of all shocks.
This
Cowboys versus Aliens instead.
Yeah. So this movie was originally titled The Woods, just The Woods.
Get into the Woods Zoo.
The name was changed because of film production by director Lucky McKee. The Wood already had that title, so there you go. They changed it to The Village.
Either way, the name's pretty generic, but I get it. It's a
point. I mean, The Village actually works better in my opinion because there is a point where the character's going to the woods, but that's like in the third act. So most of the movie takes place in said village. So if anything, The Village, in my opinion, makes much more sense as a title.
What does it say that the better name was not Shyamalan's first pick?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this production was surrounded in a lot of secrecy because they wanted to protect the twist ending from leaking, right? any kind of info about the twist ending. However, the script was stolen over a year before the film was released, prompting many quote-unquote previews of the film on several internet film sites.
To try and beat the spoilers.
I
That being
really
said,
wonder
wow.
how these kind of things actually happen, because stuff like the unfinished version of The Matrix or X-Men Origins Wolverine, the script for the Star Wars, one of the Star Wars sequel trilogy movies. But I bet nobody knows actually who did it, if it was John Boyega or someone else. I do wonder how these things happen.
Well, okay, the reason they happen is because typically the people behind them are so secretive they can live to do it again. But I digress. I'm gonna come out and say it. I get that we're only 12 minutes in, but I don't feel interested at all with what's going on. And
again, the setting on its own has some level of potential, but it's like watching the most cardboard, slice of life, story you ever see, with just the hint of something cool in the form of something that might threaten these people from the woods.
And keep in mind, the stereotype is that the Amish community lifestyle would be boring as sin. Way to play into that stereotype. I get that wasn't the intent, but this is just dull. None of the characters are interesting. And yes, the most interesting thing going on is us seeing skinned animals, which
that says a lot.
No, the thing is, it's not even necessarily that is the problem. The bigger problem is the fact that Shyamalan is not a good character writer. Because in the hands of someone like Isao Takahata, this concept could have potentially done something cool, because he would do a good job making us invested in the characters. But the Shyamalan does such a bad job. Look at that. Look at how bored Joaquin Phoenix looks.
Oh, that was supposed to. I thought he was supposed
surprise!
to look. Was he supposed to look angry, upset?
Again, Joba, no surprise.
So yeah, this girl just randomly confesses to him. Yeah. So, am I supposed to have a reaction to this?
Yeah.
You rejected her.
I hope Shyamalan was not trying to have a comedy moment, because, that's kind of how it came across with the kind of Gilligan cut.
Bryce Dallas Howard, who
has to play a blind person in this.
Yeah.
Again, early 2000s, so it's not like a thing that was Shyamalan only, Hollywood as a whole, having the tendency of, not particularly caring about people with disabilities. It's kind of fucked up that of all movies, Mac and Me from the 80s actually had someone who actually was paraplegic in a wheelchair to play the disabled kid. Jesse, what are you doing? Is he T-posing?
Yes, apparently he is.
Is he gonna offer to everyone his granny's peach tea?
Jesse, you're auditioning for the wrong DC character. You're Lex Luthor, not the Scarecrow.
Okay. If I recall correctly, they're trying to lure out whatever it is that's attacking animals.
The supposed creatures. Also, Dibs, remember, supposedly for the cancelled fourth Batman movie, Nicolas Cage was supposed to play the Scarecrow, so we kind of would have got something close to that.
Well, Tio, if you want to see his light... Oh, wait, no. That was actually Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum was also one of the would-be scarecrows.
Nicolas Cage
Because-
played instead Superman to, barge in for that cancel concept, in both Teen Titans Go and The Flash.
It goes beyond.
Nah.
It goes beyond the acting. The dialogue is also so dry.
Right, I
and
forgot.
devoid of personality or anything that is remotely humorous or interesting or much of anything. Really, it's like we're watching nothing.
Yeah, again, compared to consider what you were mentioning, that I'm going to one up that and say that if you want something that has some concept similar to this, but actually done right, there's the Igurashi franchise, both the video game
Yes.
and the anime adaptation. Which, sure, they're not of the same time period. It's more of a case where it's something that goes on for a relatively bigger span of time in general, but it has something similar to that, combine that with a murder mystery.
So, yes, believe it or not, folks, the girl who just confessed to Joaquin Phoenix is not our main heroine.
No, again, like I said,
that would be Bryce Dallas Howard.
for a good chunk, the movie will actually be decentralized and tell us, the lives of these people in order to make you accustomed to, most important characters, but only later we'll just focus on one person.
From what
There's
I
also a
recall,
thing-
Bryce Dallas Howard portrays a blind person fine enough.
I mean, I've seen worse, but I've also seen better.
Okay. I will say this. When it comes to casting certain people with certain disabilities, it will vary because, first and foremost, a studio will focus on, okay, how liable is this particular disabled person to get us sued, essentially? Like, for example, Toph Beifong in the live-action Avatar series, a very action-packed Avatar series. Ideally, people would like an actual blind girl to play her, but in a series as action-packed as Avatar, which might use some effects, and as you imagine, equipment or whatnot, yeah, they don't want to run the risks that might occur with a blind person. Pretty much most prominent in the Daredevil series were Charlie Cox, who does do the role magnificently, is not blind himself.
A good compromise is doing, like Jova said, what that series is doing, where even though the actress is not blind, they're having an actual consultant to help her, do things properly.
This, however, being an early 2000 movie and handled with a person with the ego the size of a mountain, you can imagine no such thing happened.
Right, okay. From what I can recall, I feel Bryce Dallas Howard on her own portrays the role well enough.
I'm guessing this is supposed to be the joyful moment, but
whimsy.
I'm guessing Adrian's supposed to be her brother in this.
I don't remember, but we're at least friends at the very least, because the village is a couple of families, being very tight with each other.
Don't
The thing
worry,
is that-
Adrian. You'll be in a movie that's at least better than this next year.
But the
Remind me
thing
again?
is, like
Sorry, go on.
King Kong.
Okay.
King Kong.
Yeah.
I don't know, Dibs. Like
I'll take Peter
movie-
Jackson's King Kong
Yes,
over this.
yes.
I know that it's marginally long, but I get entertainment in some capacity out of it.
Definitely will take that 1,000 times over this. Like, King Kong does have some good moments. Heck, the action in that actually can be good, and the acting was overall pretty good in that. I honestly think King Kong's main problem is, it's too long, but other than that, it's at least enjoyable. This is not. Like, we talk about King Kong being long. With how boring this movie is, every minute feels like 10.
Again, he's trying to do something akin to what something like a Kubrick movie would do, where it uses its slow pacing to build up atmosphere and have the characters be slowly built up. The problem is, again, like the dialogue, like I said, depending on, even though the characters talk a lot, not a lot of personality comes through in said dialogue. Like I said, the dialogue is super dry. The characters Like, I mean, okay, to her credit, Bryce Dallas Howard is probably the best actress in this movie for me because with some good facial acting, she does convey some degree of a personality, but it's more so her doing it rather than the dialogue. She's basically just doing her best to try to elevate this shit. But yeah, you look at Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix is boring as shit in this movie because
he barely looks like much he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah. Look at Bryce Dallas Howard's facial acting compared to Joaquin Phoenix, and allow me to remind you, these two are meant to be an item by the end of this. So,
Like, okay, part of the problem with M. Night Shyamalan films is it's hard for me to tell how much I should blame on the actors and how much I should blame on the directing, because Shyamalan has shown he can take some of the best actors and make them turn in hokey performances.
The actors are not the problem. We've seen pretty much all of these actors do better in other movies.
Yeah.
I will argue Bryce Dallas Howard is better here than she is in Lady in the Water, to be honest with you. She expresses more emotion
in the water. She's really more just a tool, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, I get what they're trying to do for a Lady in the Water, but
again, someone who still likes that movie despite everything, Jova, I'm the first to recognize that, for creating a fairy tale, you could actually try to have the focus, the Narf, or the Madam Narf in this case, have a bit more, of an active role.
But don't you see, Tio, she's the damn...
I get the entire point is to gather the people that will help her, but it would have been nice, if she herself, properly recognized them.
But you don't understand. She's the story, so she must be carried by the characters. Literally carried by the characters. Oh, hey, Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, speaking of... Okay, I will still argue, but a couple of people really feel like they're questioning what are we doing here. Again, already Adrian Brody as the tomfool is one of them, but Sigourney Weaver as one of the elders just feel random. Not even that. Just what is she doing?
I honestly feel like M. Night Shyamalan just got her on this movie for the name recognition.
Or the contrary, like the actress actually heard the reputation and wanted to be with him because, it's a big name, let's be associated with him.
Well, sadly, would not be the first time, but an auteur, M. Night would not end up being. A question: was this at a low point in Sigourney's career? So she thought
this was early
this might be a boost?
No, she did start doing very weird B-tier movies at the end of 2010, like one where she had Taylor Lautner in a Tom Clancy-esque plot. Don't ask.
Well, she's in Holes, to be fair. That was good.
What year was that?
Yeah, she was in that.
2003.
So 1 year before this.
So basically, I like that. Joaquin Phoenix's character goes on like, you're hiding something and blah, blah, blah.
But don't you see, he's really in love with Kitty's sister, Ivy.
Yeah, that's what they were arguing earlier. But I like Sigourney Weaver. Again, this is an example of how bad the dialogue in this movie is. So Joaquin Phoenix is saying stuff about, and Sigourney Weaver's response is, "What is your meaning?" Not just a simple not just a simple "What do you mean?" You think she would ask, "What do you mean?" or "What are you saying?" Like, actual real people talk, but no, instead she asks, "What is your meaning? What are you, a fucking robot?"
Like,
because
if I had to hazard a guess, maybe M. Night wanted to have the idea of trying to capture a more archaic level of English that would have actually be spoken in Pilgrim times. I don't know. Maybe, at least that's the thought process. Similar to how, as you guys also mentioned, a linguist was hired to try to guess how people will talk far ahead in the future for After Earth.
Okay, the thing is, typically when I hear people talk from the Pilgrim years, it's usually "thou art" or "thy" and all that.
I forgot. Has any of you seen The Witch?
The what now?
It's supposed to be probably spelled as The Witch, but the way it's actually, written, people always read it as the Witch. It's basically does what I just said right, because it's supposed to be period placed in the Pilgrim times, and people do speak properly at that, like that.
I will say this, in all the old dialect or plays or time period pieces that are supposed to take place in ye old America, I have never heard the phrase, "What is your meaning?"
The closest I can imagine is the domination quote from the scout from Team Fortress 2 that says, "What is your major malfunctioning, brother?" And that's supposed to be a quote anyway, a reference. So
Yeah.
Right.
Here's
So,
another example that I like that. So basically, what Phoenix was saying, oh, but don't you see, the old guy, as in William Hurt, is also in love with you, and he's like, "Oh, what do you mean? How do you know he has feelings for me?" And Joaquin Phoenix's response is, "He never touches you," and I'm like, "What?"
ew. So the camera pans to show somebody walking off the camera's side, but he should have seen it. Like,
don't you
he's
see,
not
Joe?
seeing what
If
the
it's not on
camera's
camera,
seeing.
the character is not seeing it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I always laugh when they do that. It's like how in Resident Evil, where the characters act surprised at someone who's in front of them, but they're just off camera, so we can't see them.
Also,
It's
we
like,
cut immediately to the night, and Shyamalan thinks he's so clever by having the shot continuing of, Joaquin Phoenix's character moving on, as if it's the same thing, but we changed time placement. It's so clever. Please like
God,
me.
this movie really is the catalyst, the starting point for pretty much his quirks that would become infamous. The terrible editing, the terrible cuts, the terrible
I
directing.
don't remember what score he gave, but when me and Pedro showed this movie to Deji, he wasn't amused. Just say that.
I'm gonna guess a 2 out of 10.
I don't
Like,
remember again, but I wouldn't be
But
surprised.
no, but Joe, but don't you see? Look at how gorgeous the cinematography is.
Okay, two things. One, also, Joe, I'd argue there's another trope we see from this movie onwards. James Newton Howard having to do most of the acting for his music for the
Yeah, I
characters.
was just about to say, probably the only major thing that, it sticks out in a positive manner is the score from J. Stuart Traveler. If I recall correctly, he was even nominated for an Oscar for Best Score, but I don't think it won.
And two, Bryce Dallas Howard's character, Ivy.
yes.
Originally, Kirsten Dunst was going to play her, but she dropped out of production to go star in Elizabethtown instead.
Boy, Kristen Dunst and Bryce Dallas Howard tend to be, like, practically tied at the knee with fate.
Also, I found it the Best Music award for the Oscars for that season was instead given to Jan A.P. Kasvarek for Finding Neverland. And I'm like, I guess the score of that one definitely tries to play up a bit more of a whimsy, but I don't know. It could have gone either way, especially because if I recall correctly, the other contender were John Williams for Harry Potter 3, Thomas Newman for Lemony Snicket, A Series of Unfortunate Events, and John Dabney for The Passion of the Christ. Okay, that one definitely did not really deserve to win. As someone who has actually seen the movie in theaters, I can tell you that the score is almost non-existent.
Weirdly enough, the industry seems to have a hard-on for soundtracks that are atmospheric and just there. Oh, no!
It's not just
We
hell is
forgot to
not.
mention that this was done in the period of time where Lost was a thing.
Hell, it's not.
Yeah.
I know it
It's
might
not
be
just.
just a coincidence, but still.
Like, yes, I get it. It makes it feel real and immersive. Doesn't mean that makes it great. Like, and yes, there is an art to minimalism. I can get that, but I just think, honestly, if you're going to give somebody credit for working less, I feel like maybe minimalistic things should get their own category in that regard.
Speaking instead of, just for our nomination, surprisingly, despite the fact that this movie, was really the catalyst point for people to start wondering what the fuck was wrong with Shyamalan, the Razzies did not touch this. I don't remember what they were doing for the year of 2004. I think they had
Oh,
to do...
that's his. Oh, remember that's the year that Catwoman came out. I think so.
Okay.
Okay. In that, yeah, Catwoman was too bad.
I'm pretty sure they
Was it
could have still
2003?
nominated like worst actor for William Hurt or something. Let me see.
Okay. I think it would be two things, assuming this was the year Catwoman came out. One, Catwoman was the heavyweight champion of bad in
Okay,
2004, from what I can
also
recall.
raising also this that year also yes the monsters.
Here's the monster.
We will get a better look at them later. I would like to remind you that for that year the Razzies made win for worst actor George W. Bush for his quote unquote role in Fahrenheit 9/11 as himself. The Razzies have a bad tendency of actually making winning people who are not actors and instead are just politicians that are cameoing because they're bad politicians.
I will say probably the other reason why was also that, with the Razzies usually going after what is widely agreed to be bad, while this movie in hindsight is widely agreed to be bad, apparently there were still some people on the fence trying to defend and, see the majesty of this movie. Like, now by the time of Lady in the Water, it was apparently agreed to be bad, but I think it was kind of at like, the big hotspot point where people were either trying to argue that no, this movie's a misunderstood classic, seeing as how again this is literally the turning point. So my guess is, did we really need a slow-mo for that?
It was a very tense sequence, Jova, don't you know? Go on,
Yeah,
Pedro.
because I care so. Yeah, because I care so much about these characters. Might as well talk about something that needs to be addressed regarding the marketing of this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's one of the main reasons why audiences also reacted very badly to this movie. If you go back and check the marketing for the movies, like the trailers and stuff like that, the marketing of this movie was a gigantic lie. They basically marketed this movie as if it was a monster movie. So if you look at the trailers, the trailers mostly just show the monster scenes to try to make it look like this is some kind of monster horror movie. Instead of the slice of life drama that it actually is.
It's another bad habit that Hollywood has. We will do the same mistake a couple of years later with the Babadook.
No, Pedro supposedly is right, because in order for it to be a slice of life, there actually has to be life in it.
That is true. That is true. But no. Again, as a result, audiences felt cheated because they thought they came in to watch it's not even so much so that again, keep in mind, it's to the audience's credit, it's not even necessarily that they have a problem with a slice of life village movie. It's more so that they were basically they weren't properly told what movie they were going to be watching. It's like turning on a porno. Instead of watching naked people having sex, instead you watch two old men talk about finances.
Game of Thrones.
Okay. And it's not just that. Like, the main genre of this movie is a period thriller film, essentially. So
The
yeah, for all
problem is
intents
better
and
with the
purposes.
pacing that Shyamalan is going combined with quote-unquote the twist. It's really underwhelming, and the trailers were selling you a lie.
Yeah, a thriller.
Has M Night
A thriller with no frills in it.
has M Night ever
Sad.
mentioned what he would have originally marketed this as if he were in charge?
Not that I know.
I don't know. Well, maybe that's but you see, that's the genius of it. This is a thriller without the frills. You never seen something like that before, did you?
Uh-huh.
So, can this movie
But-
have a point yet?
The movie technically has a point. The problem is that it's going to take its sweet ass time to get to it.
Yeah,
Like,
might
I
as
get
well-
it. There's a monster, Scooby Dooby Doo.
Yeah, might as well also mention this. The critics' consensus was 43% based on 220 reviews. The side consensus on Rotten Tomatoes reads, "The village is appropriately creepy, but Shyamalan's signature twist ending disappoints." Which, yeah, it is one way to address the movie, and say how bad it is, but I argue it's beyond also that.
I do kind of get it because, again, this was M. Night Shyamalan's first true failure in the eyes of viewers. Like, up until that point, his formula was seen as a success. You have a somewhat creepy atmosphere with a haunting tone, but a twist that makes everything, because, yeah, it seems like he hinged a lot on his twists at the time, basically. What am I getting at here? Well, this is where pretty much his formula just absolutely tanks, to the point where people absolutely hate the twist of his movie.
Because the movie, okay, without necessarily spoiling it, I can tell you that you can basically boil down this movie as an old man yelling at clouds.
Yeah, pretty much. I wish I was reading Alfie instead.
Heh. Oh right, Kitty's getting married to
Yeah,
Jesse
remember,
Eisenberg,
the
I
entire
guess.
fulcrum was, should we celebrate even in these tired times where we are at risk of being attacked by the monsters?
Like, I'm
Um,
sorry, the movie opened up with Kitty confessing to Joaquin Phoenix. Sorry, I know his character probably has a name, but Joaquin Phoenix, but now she's just getting hooked up with Jesse Eisenberg. Where did that come from? And I get it, she's not the main character, but it feels like stuff's happening around us without the movie itself really caring.
I've seen William Hurt in a couple of other things, like mainly the MCU
And Lost in
And,
Space.
and Lost in
Mhm.
Space. Is there anything? Okay, I don't want to speak ill of the dead or anything, but what
Yes.
is there anything William Hurt's been in where he was good?
I have to be honest, Dwayne,
Uh.
I really would like to think about it. Also, hey, now we're in The
Yeah.
Last of Us Part 2.
but yeah, no, like maybe there was some point where William Hurt is big, but
Oh, again,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure there is at least one movie that played the strength, actually, of this type of tone that
Well,
other one.
for what? She's not going to squeeze my shit. What?
You know what? You know what I mean about the dialogue in this movie? The dialogue in this movie feels like it was written by an alien.
Maybe that's the twist. Maybe Shyamalan is an alien.
all right, yeah, these two may or may not be a thing.
Remember that we even had a conversation with
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix's character. Let me see.
And from what I can recall from my first viewing, this relationship did not matter the slightest by
it's
the
important
end.
for the
Oh, there you go.
end.
See? Look at this. See?
Oh.
They keep, for whatever reason, she was extending her hand for a handshake, but he didn't shake
Oh.
her hand.
It's pretty clear
Right,
that it's
yeah.
a will-they, won't-they situation with the two of them, one of the two elders.
No, that I get. What I mean is that why is he so insistent on not touching her for whatever reason?
Okay,
Like,
if I recall correctly, it's
Okay,
tied
that
to the
has
twist.
to do with the twist, if
If
I
I recall
recall
correctly,
correctly.
yes. I'll have to
That
wait
being
until then.
said, even with that in mind, I'm sorry, this movie is a waste of Sigourney Weaver.
Also,
yes,
Shyamalan, I hate to tell you, there are plenty of Disney's cartoons of the 40s which literally hammer into my skull how the square dance is performed, and you don't know how to do it. Like, holy shit, this is your parent company you're working with. Take a few hours of your time, watch the wartime era movies, and actually do it right. It's so stilted and dull.
Oh
it
no!
is.
Somebody's ringing the damn silver bell, apparently. I like how even the cast is like, should we be worried or something? Oh, wait, yeah, no, we act concerned now.
And Shyamalan's like, keep going, I didn't say cut.
Keep rolling.
Yeah,
is-
that's another thing from Shyamalan's films. He cannot pick a tone to convey properly.
I thought you were going to say another thing about Shyamalan's films, Limp Bizkit or something.
It would have been
Wait, what?
hilarious. Also, okay, Pedro, I need a reminder for this because I don't remember which character it was. William Hurt was also in AI Artificial Intelligence as Professor Alan Hobby, but I don't remember which character is that. Is it the Einstein AI that provides answers?
Maybe. It's been a while.
Wait. Oh wait, no. Oh no, William Hurt in AI, he plays the guy who reveals God, that was also Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah.
The linking of actors, small world. But yeah, no, he is the one who reveals to Haley Joel Osment that he was the one in charge of the program that created him, basically.
Okay. Because honestly, James, I was
Robin Williams was the one who played Albert Einstein in that.
Okay. I skimmed through his filmography, Dwebs, and I'm sad to report that of the movies that I've seen with him, it's not really a good look. I don't know actually what happened, what was the catalyst of, for his agent to actually, properly launching his career, but I have to say his acting, unfortunately, was underwhelming for the most part.
Shockingly, Harrison Ford was a much better Thunderbolt role than William Hurt. Who would
More
have
skinned
imagined?
animals, lovely.
Well, I mean,
It's a good thing Alice is not watching this.
Yeah, I also think though, Jim. I mean, Harrison Ford, when he tries,
Yes,
yeah, he's a very capable actor.
exactly. Yeah,
He's like a far less annoying Marlon Brando.
Oh, by the way, knowing what the twist is, this conversation really makes no sense, by the way.
I chalked that up to Shyamalan wanting to sound cool and mysterious.
I'll get back to this when the twist is revealed, just to prove my point.
Yeah. I think, that's part of why people hate the twist, because not only is it, just really bad, but it really doesn't make sense.
Mind you, there is something to be added onto how the twist is actually performed, but we'll need to get there, which is, my god, 1 hour from now. We're not even halfway through. I probably should have brought alcohol. Alas.
Well, at least this way you'll be completely sober for your
You say
thoughts,
that like it's a good thing, Drover.
Yes, by all means, go outdoors when there's a monster on the loose, as far as you know. Although, and yes,
Look
I do
at the
get that
contrast
there's
between light and shadow, guys. Shyamalan is so creative.
And yes, I do get that there's a reason why the monster costume looks so cheap, but
well, apparently
in early
footage they actually look different according to what TV Troll says. I don't remember why they changed that.
Maybe something to do with reshoots or whatnot, but yeah, I get why the monster costumes look chintzy, but I feel like that hurts the movie. I get that there's a point to it, but I feel like at the very least they could have tried to make them look more convincing.
Yeah, it's also noted here, they were close to lions walking on their back legs with shaggy manes covering their faces. The first scale model of the design was thought too unbelievable, so that's why they got a redesign. Which, fair enough.
Unbelievable. I don't know. Like, I feel like that should be the point, though, that it looks unbelievable because it's a monster. Something.
No, Joe, we had to say
that
it
is-
like Battlefield Earth. A demon, a monster,
A beast.
a beast.
A beast. Ah! But yeah, no, like, I feel like, wouldn't it make more sense to make it seem more outlandish since, it's something supernatural, illogical in that regard?
And that's the thing. In the movie that he did immediately after, Shyamalan had the necessary creativity to create the mythology of something like a wolf and monkeys made of vegetation, made of grass. So he has the capacity for an outlandish design.
Yeah, like, shoot, was he just quelling his creativity and decided to save it for his next flick? And oh boy, what a flick that turned out to be.
Maybe it was
And then
also a
the
case
flick
where
after-
it really was just a case where the puppetry was not convincing. That's what they meant. Because
Also,
it's a
funny-
practical effect, not CGI.
It's funny how he insists on being realistic, but he constantly flubs basic science and stuff like The Happening and After Earth. Yes, I get that the point is that some of that stuff is supposed to be
Science fiction.
obviously stuff that wouldn't happen in real life, but the problem is, even by science fiction standards, they don't work because he gets basic concepts wrong.
See, the thing is
It's one
that I think I mentioned when we did the Generations of the Happening, the whole concept is so not too dissimilar to an episode of the Twilight Zone, with the idea of the plants suddenly decides to exterminate the human race. The problem is more the execution rather than the premise, because the movie is so intent on trying to play things up in the most horror and over the top way possible, which makes it sound super goofy. That's why it doesn't really work.
And it's like I've said, Shyamalan has this weird knack for constantly almost making a legit good point, but like right at the finish line, he flubs it by having to add his extra sauce in the mix, which just makes the whole thing brainless and confusing.
I think that's basically how he got the kickstart, even beyond Unbreakable and The Sixth Sense, because his movies, when actually described in a generic manner as a pitch meeting to a producer, yeah, they do sound appealing when if you just describe them like that. It's when you actually start to properly delve into deep where the producers are like, oh no, I made a terrible mistake.
Yeah, that does also explain why, before he became what he is nowadays, why, even after he ended things with Disney, why every now and then, this is a chair.
Empty chairs and empty tables.
Did Mark
Well,
Regent took over for the directing?
I was about to
Is Tiny
say,
Tim
just
dead
like
again?
after last season.
My theory for a second there was, wait, is it the chair that's talking?
Again,
No.
I still liked the kind of conversation that the two characters had just had. We were talking over it, but I did like that, at least on paper. But the directing still was weird. Oh, Pedro.
It was nice.
I don't know. It's just to me, it just felt like the movie didn't really properly build this up. Like they had like this one conversation, and now they're a couple now. Like, and never mind the fact that this guy literally rejected his sister just a few days prior to this.
They need a couple of more moments, like the one with Adrian Brody at the border, for example.
Kitty, I hope this isn't awkward, but you know the boy that you had feelings for? Yeah, he's actually into me.
I don't remember Deji getting pissed off at another cock arc, but, wouldn't be too surprised if he did.
To be fair, he was never really a thing with Kitty. He was always in love with Ivy, so this one's a bit better. Like, as far as I know, Kitty doesn't turn evil because of this.
Okay, I will, in terms of Bryce Dallas Howard movies that I've seen, I will give this movie one thing.
On.
Unlike Argyle, it didn't make me audibly groan in the cinema.
I don't think I
Oh,
saw that
I have
movie.
yet to see that movie.
Well, congratulations.
I wouldn't bother that much.
Oh,
I
it came
won't
out last
spoil it.
year.
It's directed by Matthew Vaughn, who's been pretty
The King's
declining
Man.
as of late.
Oh, him.
And it was written by Jason Fuchs, who wrote Pan.
Oh, wait. Argyle. That's that one about that spy who turns out to be real from a book, isn't it?
Yeah.
With the dumb twist that apparently that story takes place in the Kingsman
Also-
universe because Matthew Vaughn can't help
I
himself.
forgot that Bryce Dallas Howard was Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man 3.
Yes.
So
Ironically,
She probably has too.
But here's the thing,
Yeah.
too. The other thing about this romance is that, like, okay, what exactly is, like, there's not really much of a, but because they did a poor job establishing Joaquin Phoenix as a compelling character. I just don't buy it. Why she's into him? Like, I can see why he's into her.
And
I-
Adrian Brody
fair-
now stabbed Lou Russo. Yes, that's Joaquin Phoenix's character's name.
And why did he do that?
He perceives that him and Bryce Dallas Howard's character getting together would mean that their friendship, eventually ends. He doesn't seem to be infatuated with her, but as you can see, it's Shyamalan interpreting a neurodivergent mind with "the cookie crazy." Again, it's just. Yes, I can chuck it up to Shyamalan himself, but as mentioned by Tropic Thunder, Hollywood did and still does occasionally have a bad habit for this.
Yeah, I'm not feeling this. Okay. Now, I want to be fair, I guess, to the romance. The idea, from what I recall, is that the romance.
Chair.
Okay, is the chair the main character?
Okay.
The chair is the-
Maybe me and Pedro were onto something. M.Night wanted to make a sneak sequel to After Last Season.
Why would anyone want to touch something created after last season?
But
Because M.Night Shyamalan saw the cinematic genius behind the focusing on the chairs.
But Theo, did you know that there are printers in the basement you can use?
I don't care. Look, somebody's on the chair now. See?
You know, I joke, but when you get down to it, M. Night at his, okay, maybe not his worst, because that was Last Airbender, but M. Night at his corniest is kind of basically high budget After Last Season when you think about it. Awkward camera shots, characters and actors that don't know what they're doing half the time, hokey dialogue, and weird dumb twists. Because remember, the twist of After Last Season was apparently a ghost with high mental abilities was our guardian angel against a serial killer.
Of course.
I still wonder, did they just waste most of the money on drugs with that movie?
Mostly also
I mean,
on the
it was-
CGI.
Wait, wait. So wait, is that stabbing going to be rolled an accident? What is this Hitman?
Adrian Brody is Agent 47. Why not?
There's been an incident. But he's such an upstanding guy that he will not rat out Adrian.
Well, there's also the fact that, okay, despite everything, the community, the village, doesn't seem to be too harsh on him and seems to recognize, his disability. It's just that, like I said, it's more on an out-of-universe kind of deal where the problem relies.
I will say, I don't feel like the movie is blaming his disability completely on it.
Right now we're just reacting to what happened, and as mentioned, we're dealing as an accident rather than intentional.
Oh, what I'm getting at
Also,
is...
M. Night, I get it. You're portraying this character as blind. Can you move the camera away? There we go.
Which, okay, fair enough. Her counting her steps as a way to recollect where she goes and whatnot, that's, again, that's fine. That's a good way to show that. But yeah, it's that weird thing where Shyamalan chooses weird places on how to cut stuff. That said, nobody decided to accompany the blind person who might be, the least bit upset. It's like, nah, girl, just go on your own to see him.
I guess it's because, the rest of the village TM is in panic mode, basically. So.
Says something when the blind girl's the one most relaxed. Hey, just like in the Langoliers.
What I would give for having Bronson Pinchot yelling at everyone.
Yeah, no, like, for as bad as adaptations of Stephen King's work can do, they're typically better media than Shyamalan's films.
The problem with all of the mini series, not just the Langoliers, is that because if I were to rewatch a couple of those, because they were structured as a mini series event that you can just have to consume one episode at a time, there are a lot of moments where nothing's happening, and as a result, they have a similar problem to this where it's stretched and dilated too much.
Yeah.
I can't see what.
So she was literally the first person to go to him.
To
like,
find the body,
okay,
more like. Again,
I
the
know that
accident
it's
that they found was the idea that they found Adrian Brody's character with blood on his hands, so they were trying to find out what happened.
Yeah, that's really this movie's really weird. Everyone's acting in this movie is really stilted, low volume, so that whenever the movie ever goes any higher than that, it's just more like, whoa, starting up to 11, are we?
So yeah, the jig is up for Adrian, basically. But the town apparently is not going to hold it too much
Droba,
against him.
it's
Like,
the village, TM, remember.
the village TM. Oh, sorry, how could I forget?
Meanwhile, Sori is just boring his ass off in the background, asking when the Heartless are arriving.
Oh god, this is a Kingdom Hearts world.
What
How
do you even
would
do
they
with
do
that? I will say that science had more potential than this.
Like, I'd say the monster, but okay, look, like
the best I can say is that the town, well, again, it's still, it's still tied to the twist, but, would have been if the town expects the monster to arrive, but instead are the Heartless, so it's a very much more concrete type of menace that has to be dealt with, but at that point, no, you cannot just construct an entire world around that. A lot of things that would be neat as an adaptation work better in small bursts rather than full-on world. But as the franchise, we know they don't really do that outside of selective minigames. What are you looking at me like that? Shyamalan, why are you having Bryce staring into my soul? So yeah, Bryce's character, Elizabeth, actually wants to actually try to be brave and try to breach the woods in order to ask for help and medicine to nearby communities. Because, that's what unfortunately Lucius needs, otherwise he will die from the stabbing.
and because the town is the village trademark is so secretive, they're not going to have anyone go with the blind girl. Now, not saying she's helpless, and as we'll see, she is capable enough, but
Also, Joba, it's
really,
literally in her name because we remember apparently she's called Elizabeth Walker.
Ivy.
No, Elizabeth Walker. Get it? Shaman is so fucking clever with his names as usual.
Yep.
Right, yes. Ivy Elizabeth Walker. Wait, was that seriously what Shyamalan was getting at with that name?
I even, again, Jova, as much as I like the movie, would like to remind you, next movie after this, main major character is literally called Story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Shyamalan does not.
Again, it's like that Guff Marenghi
doesn't
sketch. I know writers use subtext and they're all cowards.
Speak up.
Dude, you're in a Shyamalan movie. He's the big director of the time. Or shoot, maybe that was how he directed you to act, in which case, my condolences. This probably won't be on your resume, whoever you are.
His brain.
One of the few things I do remember is what the twist is, but in due time.
Eventually, hopefully.
Yeah, this movie really does like to take its time. Like, it's
Especially
technically one
because
of M. Night Shyamalan or shorter
at
movies,
least
but
1/3 of it is dedicated to the journey that Elizabeth will actually have through the woods, which honestly would have justified partially the original title of the movie, because, a good portion of that will take place into it.
Yeah, but most of it took place in the village, so I'm not entirely certain about
I
that.
still don't know what another good title might have been. It still needs to be captivating, describe what the movie is about, and marketable, so I have no fucking clue. Past lives, maybe? That's the best way I can describe it.
And this is the big problem. Right now, the main source of urgency is, will Joaquin Phoenix survive his wound? And in order for that to be, the emotional catalyst of said story, the audience has to care about said character. And I personally do not, because the movie did a bad job of making him an interesting character.
okay, I want to be fair. You can arguably hinge an adventure on just one half of a romantic couple, essentially. And I guess I should go for the obvious example, Shadow of the Colossus. That plot hinges on a boy who you barely know having the hots for this girl who you know even less of, but he apparently loves her that much. Now, yes, I will give you that Shadow of the Colossus has a much more minimalistic plot, but I could also go to other examples where you barely know stuff about it, but the idea is to work in either reverse or while the romance is what kicks off the plot, it's not the true focus
It's
in that
mostly
regard.
also about the meta level that you do.
Yeah, remember.
Shadow of the Colossus
See, the
is
thing is,
entirely deconstructing the holes, rescuing the damsel in distress. It's kind of similar to what Nier does.
exactly.
Sure, the video game Nier does give you a bit of time to care about Yona, but if you pay attention, whatever bro or papa Nier, are in the game, they're away from home a lot of time, and they only tell you that they care about her. But still, at the end of the day, it has to be a rescue the princess kind of like mission,
I've I just looked up what other films came out around this time, and whoa, that's so July 30th, 2004. The other films that came out the same day as this were Harold and Kumar Go to the White Castle,
Ugh.
Probably a better movie.
She Hate Me.
Okay,
Heard,
you too,
never
buddy.
seen that one.
It's a Spike Lee film.
Hmm.
The Manchurian Candidate.
Oh, the one
Heard
that
of
was
that,
directed
never
by the
saw it.
disappointment director from the Island of Termiro.
And the Thunderbirds live action movie.
No go.
Ooh, you hated that, I believe.
You guys commented on that, so yeah.
Yeah, we commentated on that. It has not.
Point also to mention Jova, and also to say something about the movie. I appreciate, even though I think it was kind of intentional for Shyamalan, I appreciate that it's not Elizabeth the one in distress and Lucius is the one that has to rescue her, but it's kind of the contrary, and gives a chance to a disabled character to actually prove, in this case, her worth. The problem is that it doesn't really matter much in the grand scheme of things. So it's Shyamalan just wasting a gold opportunity.
So we're gonna have to say it. Quest for Camelot may have handled
No,
the disabled better.
it's just no, it's still bad for different reasons.
Oh yeah, yes, it's bad, but it still did better than Shyamalan.
No, I still
in
will
that
say
regard.
same level, different reasons.
And yeah, another thing about this movie, it really likes to space out its words unnecessarily.
So
look,
it's kind of
look.
like After Earth Dweebs.
Holy cow, it is.
Take a
So,
knee.
again, when we commentated on After Earth, we thought maybe the pauses were because of the linguist, but nope, I guess that really was a Shyamalan-ism.
So
And to be fair,
basically,
again, he
what's
was still the director at the end of the day. I can imagine Will had, an idea on how to make scenes, but ultimately he had to obey what Shyamalan was telling him.
you
Oh
see,
my
Jova?
God.
You see, Jova, one day when Joaquin Phoenix and Bryce Dallas Howard have a child, years from now, he will be telling the story of this movie, and he will be telling him, you see, I looked at the knife and I saw my blood. And I thought,
It
wow,
hurt.
that's
This
real pretty.
Wow,
I
And
don't
I
want that thing
this,
in me.
this does hurt a little bit.
And I realize I don't want that in me anymore.
That is the story of how Joaquin Phoenix ghosted the first time.
It's like that's the sad part when you have a director who directed this movie, and yet the pinnacle of lifeless acting comes from that one scene from After Earth with Will fucking Smith. Wow, that is a triumph of boredom, of soulless boredom. Like. It's like Shyamalan went out of his way to make the most boring scene imaginable.
Also, if I recall correctly, Jesse Eisenberg's character is not important anymore. Again, it was just one of the inhabitants of the village, but, one of the very minor key ones.
Also, don't worry, guys. They have the magic rocks to keep them safe from the monsters. The adults told them so.
And the Little Nightmares capes. No, really, it
Mhm.
reminds me of the main character of Little Nightmares, which in itself,
But yes.
People speculated might be a reference to Pac-Man because the game was published by Banco.
But yes, to the village trademarks credit, they didn't have her go completely alone.
Well, how kind of them. They realized that despite, her bravery, she still might need help due to her disability.
But unfortunately, she's down a member already because one of them left in fear.
You're just a chicken. Chi.
Okay.
That movie's acting was better than this.
Okay. Tommy Wiseau being directed by M.Night Shyamalan.
Clash of Egos, Drova, they're incompatible. They will fight on set constantly.
Yeah.
But God, can you imagine the movie that they would create together in that chaos?
Yeah, we're now about to enter into what you can, I guess, consider the climax. Quote unquote, of the movie.
Wow, what a thrilling climax!
You know, what does it say that in an M. Night Shyamalan movie, I can't really differentiate William Hurt's acting from most of his acting? Like, does that make him immune to Shyamalan only because he already wasn't that good an actor?
You could say that in the same kind of sense of that DC Scarecrow is immune to the effects of Black Lantern rings because he has virtually no emotion by having inhaled too much fear gas.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe there are times when William Hurt acted great, but to this day, I still don't get who thought casting him as Thunderbolt Ross was a good idea. And yes, he does have some points where he does act angry, but I'm sorry.
The rocks are gone.
Oh no! Why did she do that?
The last portion of the movie is basically to have Bryce Dallas Howard, Elizabeth's character, to become the girl boss of the situation, managing to make things work despite all the adversities.
But yeah, I
Right.
agree. Harrison Ford was a major upgrade.
Like they
I have
should
to
have
agree
really.
with Jova and just wish at that point they would have got Sam Elliott back, unless he's really too old to do it.
Like, oh yeah, like I kind of get why they went with William Hurt for the MCU. I still think they should have just done Sam Elliott
Was talking
instead.
about the
But
recasting, but again, that's not even
yeah,
the
the
point now. Oh yeah,
oh
this
no,
it's time
it's the
for
monster.
not the but one of the twists. This was right as she was about to leave. But remember, the patriarch of the village allowed her to enter into the shack. And yes,
Yeah,
that's the one of our main twists. The monsters are a farce. They're just
A
people in
farce.
costume.
yeah,
Well,
like it's
Which-
literally Scooby Doo. They're
Again.
scaring the kids so that they'll never want to leave the
Again
village.
and again, keep in mind, audiences went into this movie thinking they were going to watch a monster movie.
So I just want you to keep this in mind. It is well, okay, it's not entirely the adults' fault, but yes, for a lot of intents and purposes, it is the adults' fault that this village has not developed properly or cognitively because they are literally trying to keep their citizens on the child mentality that monsters exist. Which, oh, trust me, the twist gets worse.
and again,
Which is
connected to what I was saying before. Yeah, on paper that would be a good hookup for Kingdom Hearts. You know, the elders are expecting the monsters to be fake, but then if the Heartless show up, the danger is very real. And now I'm thinking that unfortunately the trade-off will have to be that it's just a gigantic escort mission, like most of the segments in the Mulan world, and I don't particularly see the idea working.
Can you
Can you even,
imagine Bryce Dallas Howard's character becomes the party member and suddenly she gets all these daredevil moves?
With a baton.
No.
her
You're thinking
cane.
small. You're thinking small, Jova. Think about it. A Kingdom Hearts Village world would mean there would be a scene where William Hurt talked to us about the various things about the heart. Can you even imagine William Hurt going on a typical Kingdom Hearts speech
Well, I
about the
can't
heart?
because the actor is dead, so they will have to be what
Okay.
Corey Burton, I guess.
Okay. But let's imagine an hypothetical scenario where that would happen. Can you imagine, Jova, like the most like William Hurt having an anthem style speech about the various intricacies of the heart?
You need to understand the meaning of the heart is more than just that of what you thought you knew. This world has indeed been connected through all of our hearts, and it is with our hearts and minds that we have done this to protect the village.
Yeah.
Boy with key.
Honestly, considering circumstances, if they still had a bit of spunk in their characterization, they could have done something like what we did with King Triton in Kingdom Hearts 1, where he's aware of the existence of a world and is actually trying to prevent that knowledge to be had, which resonate with the themes of the original movie. But again, fanfiction.
So William Hurt can't go, and yet he's sending the blind woman all alone to
Brilliant.
The
go.
blind woman who is his
Brilliant.
daughter, mind you. The blind woman who is his daughter. Like, that's his daughter he sent out there.
I mean,
Because-
Jesus, I mean, this came out the same year as Blade Trinity, where they leave the blind woman in charge of security.
Okay, there's arguably more of a reason here, but it's kind of despicable seeing as how it's his I can't say yet, but
Sigourney, what? I get it, you're supposed to be in distress, but I don't know if this is the best way to convey that.
also, isn't it funny? Like, Ivy's father is in love with Lucius's mom,
Generation
while Ivy
Zero,
was in
so
love
that's
with
what it's called.
Lucius. Like, so how would that have worked out? Like a double wedding?
Probably.
But yeah, no, keep in mind, the main reason he doesn't go is because Sigourney Weaver's character, Alice, is like, oh no, remember our vow. So, again, if something bad happens, It's on all your heads.
Yeah, again, this is where more seeds are planted, specifically amongst the elders.
Oh my god, he actually yelled.
Remember, Jova, he did also that in Lost in Space.
Lost in
Oh,
Space.
oh my God!
Localized burst, basically.
Will, calm down, dude. Like like you're almost at a point where you're showing emotion. Calm down, dude. Are you like you might have a heart attack? Jeez.
I do remember us joking that at this point William Hurt was one of the better actors in the movie, which is
I will say
God,
that
that
Brendan
says a
Gleeson
lot.
would have been better, but I had
He's
barely any
barely in
lines
this.
in this.
Yeah.
I feel
I
like
mean,
Brandon
I-
Gleeson.
Yeah, William at the very least is trying in this scene, so there's that.
Again, maybe. And mind you, this is really me going like ELA professor on this. Maybe the point is to show that they've lost a lot of their spirit, and that's why they act monotone. While he still has some fight and spirit in him, which
Keep in
is
mind,
why
if
he's
I
the only
remember
one
correct-
outbursting.
Keep in mind, if I remember correctly, this might be a reshoot scene because, again, it's still tied to the twist, but I'll just mention briefly that the original ending was presented in a more simplistic manner, but test audiences thought it was too abrupt, so we expanded on that.
You know, I've noticed, and this probably goes without saying, but sometimes it seems like responding to test audiences works out. Other times it seems like they just
I
have
see
really
that the
bad
ratio
luck in
is
picking the
heavily
test audiences.
I see that the head ratio Jova is heavily stacked, in favor of it doesn't work out. Remember, it's also the reason why the final version of Alien 3 is the mess that it is.
It's like, and yes, I get the point of test audiences, but yeah, like you said, it feels like 9 times out of 10, test audiences didn't like this or that, or test audiences dared to yawn at this one bit, so we changed the whole thing up. I'm not saying that there's no point to test audiences, but sometimes I wonder if maybe there's something wrong with the process.
Sometimes it manages to work out in the end, like an example that you know, Dweebs, is Deep Blue Sea, if I recall correctly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'd rather be watching at the minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like, also, one thing I don't like about the twist is how they take their time to frame it. Like, I get it, it's maybe M. Night Shyamalan wants to be unique, but wouldn't it have made more sense to just have the twist altogether be shown at the end, or instead of interlocking bits with that, since, okay, now we know that Ivy's character knows that there is no danger because the father showed it, so now there's, like, no tension for us whatsoever. As far as we know, the only danger is her potentially getting lost on her own. Which, looks like she is on her own now, since I guess the other guy abandoned her too.
I will also say, these woods are not particularly frightening to me. Like, Snow White, this is not. The only thing that this is telling me is that, from Shyamalan's point of view, is that, well, sorry to say, buddy, but the woods in the area of Philadelphia, they're not particularly good looking.
Yeah.
And
don't
she's
you
going into
see-
a sinkhole?
It's like this. Yeah, it basically makes it so that this also paints the old people in such a negative light.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that Joaquin Phoenix is dying and he desperately needs medical help, and you're still going to send her to do this because instead of going yourselves, you're not even willing to break your stupid traditions just to save this poor boy. Like these old people are fucking assholes, and they are dragging their kids into their terrible misery.
Yeah.
And the worst part is, I get the feeling Shyamalan wanted us to feel sorry for them in the end,
And that's
given what the twist is.
And that's the main reason why people hate the twist so much. It basically recontextualizes the entire movie into just a bunch of shitty people doing shitty things for no good reason.
Also, maybe I missed it, but when did the other friend abandon her?
In the middle, literally gave
In the
her
middle.
the magic rocks and told her, "You're gonna be fine."
Yeah, what great friends you have.
With friends like
Well,
these.
okay. Okay, I get the adults being dumb. I mean, I don't, but I get what the story's going for with, but I honestly feel like she should have just told them it's all a hoax, honestly.
And especially because, as you again, I can't quite go into full detail because we have yet to get to the second major twist. But as you're going to see when we get to it, this that's the other major problem, is that this movie doesn't really have anything interesting to say.
Yeah.
No, it really doesn't. Like, the twist has a message.
Oh, looks like the cane broke in two. What does this mean? Like,
Her
yes,
heart's broken.
it's kind of a shame, but you can just pick up another stick and use that.
Yeah.
Here's
Don't
a good
you see?
idea.
I guess it's to show how resourceful she is by finding another walking stick. Woo!
In the immortal legendary words of Steve Martin from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
I'll be honest, Pedro. Ever since I saw the American cut of the original Godzilla movie, I keep getting confused as to which Steve Martin people are talking about now.
Okay.
It's a
Watch
common,
Planes,
it's a common first and last name.
Wasn't it such a great idea to send your blind daughter out on her own? Like, I'd maybe be okay with this if the movie culminated with William Hurt's character saying, "Screw it," and he comes to help her.
It's clear also
That
that
is
the
not
movie is
what
trying
happens.
to have this basically be a rite of fire. A bit similar to what After Earth is trying to be for Jaden Smith's character, the idea that a character is thrust into an adversity and by climbing that out becomes, better and capable at the end.
Oh no, totally real monster this
Yeah,
time.
Am I supposed to? Am I supposed to feel tension right now because you literally just told me that these things aren't real?
See,
So
pacing wise, if we saved the scene where the twist about the creatures being fake is done after this, at this very point, the audience might still have be actually afraid of this scene. Again, what I think is the movie's trying to convey is that we know that they are fake, but the fact that there is one, that means there is someone or something is not right still in this, and also the fact that in post process they gave them growling sound effects, which really do not fit.
The problem is the effect still is just not good enough to the point
Yeah.
where it looks so fake. And again, I get that was the point, but I feel like it would have been so much better if, they had actually made the monster look more real prior, essentially, to show that it's a matter of perspective. As soon as she realizes that it's fake, then show them as fake and chintzy.
Shit. Slow-mo
quit it
for
with the
no
jump
reason.
scares.
Why was there a slow-mo?
yeah,
The movie was lagging.
Woods.
And the monster proceeded to
Stop her.
love tap her.
Maybe Zack Snyder took over for like 5 seconds there.
I think the slow-mo would have been more classy at the very least with that.
Also,
Hey, Dwebs, think about this. Jova and Dwebs, think about this. The Village, directed by Zack Snyder. Not only do we get to see these villagers be boring as shit, but we get to see them do it in slow motion.
I guess we might
Maybe
would
it'd
have
be
got
3 hours if they did that.
we might could have got some good sex scenes out of that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess,
yeah. You know,
but
like you know,
I
at
know about
least
your
in the
usual point about with the internet, I can just see that, but there is such a thing as, artistically directed porn that a director can
look,
oh
actually
no,
pull off.
look. I will give it credit. I have never before seen a slow-mo action fight scene that also involves the two people having sex. So the 300 sequel definitely gets points for originality there.
well, Jova, I guess it's kind of okay, but it's no farming for grain in slow motion, though. Let's face it.
Oh God.
Whoop. See, this
Okay,
slow-mo,
okay.
okay, to be fair, this slow-mo I can see more. She literally sprung a trap for the monster,
You
Oh no, it's
know,
not happening.
I
you
think
know,
it's
I
more
just,
so the way. I think it's
you
more
know,
so
I
the slow
just,
mo effect that sucks rather than the slow motion itself. Because the slow motion was done in a way that really felt like the movie was genuinely lagging.
And here's
oh,
another
get ready
twist.
for another twist.
Yeah, the fact that the Adrian Brody's character, let me check again the name just to be sure.
I love how they
Noah,
had to
that's his
base.
name, managed to find a way to escape.
I love how they basically had to ADR in all that stuff. Also,
Pretty much.
I just realized that this costume reminds me a bit of the Horn King from Black Cauldron.
A bit,
Spikes, red
but
cloak,
the
skeletal
spike
look.
reminds more of a hedgehog, like or echidna. And yeah, it was Noah inside the costume. Why?
And
I guess he
apparently
just
he
casually
was the
found it and
one
decided to put it.
and apparently he was the one skinning the animals based off of that 80-yard line.
Probably.
Yeah, like I just love how again, maybe it wasn't intended to be ADR all along, but I love how they have to fit in that bit of exposition where, oh my god, he found the costume and there are all the skinned animals and there's all the other clues that show why he was the killer.
And Adrian Brody's character is dead.
From a fall.
Is this post supposed to be a message for something?
I mean, okay. Did he hit something?
I guess he impacted with his back, so it made a chance to make the spine is shattered or
Okay,
something.
okay. I'm still gonna have to wonder if his bones are made of wafers because okay, fine, okay. At most, he would have like a broken rib or something. He wouldn't immediately, instantly die.
In general, Pedro, it depends on specifically where you land. You can actually have a relatively stupid kind of fall, even when you're walking around and you trip in your house. But if you actually land specifically on a bad point on something that is bad, you can have a very serious damage. Again, case in point to the spine.
Plus, Pedro, remember, Shyamalan did direct a movie where the main villain has bones are practically made of glass, so...
There you
I
go.
guess it's just that this death gives me major King Graham and King's Quest V vibes. Ah!
Okay, so I'm trying to remember. Okay, so I'm trying to remember. Is there supposed to be tragic irony that she doesn't know that it was
Pretty much.
oh god.
Again,
So he'll
it's all
essentially
ingrained in this also because we're about to get to it. It's also ingrained in the end and in the twist.
so
Because
he died, but no one will ever know.
well, the village TM probably will because they realized that he escaped. But at the very
Well, it
least,
depends on if they'll
Elizabeth.
venture out that far, because remember, Tio, leaving the village is forbidden.
Anyway, the Elizabeth managed to find the white, not even yellow, road, so she will be able to find a way.
I like how she pretty much was done with that point to the point where she even took off the hood, like it clearly wasn't helping. Oh boy, here it comes.
Yeah, I still question
Ow.
this particular owl. I still
Or should
question
I
that
say,
particular act.
here he comes.
Zalgo? That's
You know who.
I know, I know.
Also, apparently James Newton Howard wanted to take a bit of inspiration from the Beauty and the Beast soundtrack for that bit.
Again, he tries so
Oh,
hard.
here
it
comes the
comes.
big twist. The big twist.
If I recall correctly, this is also possibly one of the other reshoots.
Also, who's that woman next to him? Is that supposed to
Another
be
one of
Ivy's...
the elders.
Yeah, I think it's meant to be his actual wife. He has a hots for the Sigourney Weaver, but Sigourney Weaver's not his wife. I think, if I remember correctly, I remember him hugging her or something. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Moving on. It's not like it's not like she matters.
Anyway, but yeah, because Jane Atkinson is listed as Tabitha Walker, Ivy's mother, so is he philandering with Alice? Like, dude,
that's the thing. That's the thing. Well, technically, no, Joe. But as Walker Phoenix put very well, he never touches her, so technically, he's not really doing much of anything.
Oh, here we go.
A flashback to something that we were told before at the beginning of the movie.
Apartment.
Oh boy. Yay, that looks pretty modern, actually. Okay. So here's the twist. Basically, the elders of the village are people from modern times. It's actually just an Amish community, but the thing is, the younger generations of that community think that they are living the true old life, essentially.
For them, it's basically a self-imposed exile for a tragic event that happened in their lives.
So basically, some criminals kill people in your family. So your decision to that is, okay, fine. If you can't handle your grief and you want to live in the fucking woods, that's your business. But then, but of course, not only do you purposely lie to your children, you keep them in there, like, seriously. It's just like...
Not only that, but because they're living ye old lifestyle, they haven't been able to have modern medicine.
So basically, this movie is basically just a bunch of stupid, shitty people doing shitty, horrible things for stupid reasons.
I have to say now, the original ending apparently was Liz climbing onto the wall. It was supposed to be very dramatic, looking, well, the viewer wouldn't look because obviously she's blind, over the wall and seeing that we were in modern times with buildings on the horizon and everything. That's it, cut to credits. And again, people thought it was too abrupted, so we're doing reshoots. I do wonder if the extra explanations of the reason why the Elder did it was something that was added in post. Because if you try thinking about it a bit, if you remove the whole motivation, just the twist alone of that being, now seeing that these communities barricaded behind in modern times alone, that would be a very powerful moment, especially because you don't know what to think. It's a good way to do a cliffhanger for the movie. But the problem is that because they give it such a specific type of, explanation, particularly tied to the elders, we run into the problem that also Pedro before, that the movie is recontextualized as a bunch of people with very, very weird habits that took a tragic events, took it very personally, and condemned a bunch of other people as a result because of, their own sense of guilt. It's
Hey,
more sense of grief. More like grief, not so much guilt. Yeah.
There's a similar story to this. It's called BioShock. The difference is the guy who does that is, rightfully regarded as being out of his goddamn mind.
What you're saying, Jova, all the people on the internet who are fucking stands to Andrew Ryan for some reason.
God damn
Jesus Christ.
splicers.
Also, question:
Yes.
What?
airplanes.
If I recall correctly,
That's a good question.
No, actually, I think
Why
it
aren't they
was.
hearing? Why
I
aren't they
think-
hearing planes? I mean, yes, I know the movie's gonna say or has said, I don't know,
Yeah.
that there's a no-fly zone, but you can still hear planes, or helicopters.
I guess we can just chuck it up to the monster noises from the woods.
Apparently, they have some special agreement
Oh,
with the
here we go.
government, or
We're about
Oh,
to.
Lord.
Are we missing something from the Shyamalan
Yeah.
movie? A specific
Yeah,
trope that he likes to do.
Oh, wait, no, hold on. Is that Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior there? Like, he pretty much cast
It
himself.
gets
as
even
that
better,
lady in
Joe.
the
But me and
water.
Pedro and Deji discovered it casually. But apparently, Shyamalan's cameo throughout Unbreakable Split and Glass, it's not just him being a cameo. He's supposed to be the same character throughout the three movies, despite the fact that he appears in
What?
3 different contexts.
Why?
Ego.
Yes. That is true.
I also love it how we
Oh.
linger this on so much. It's like, oh, who could this person be?
Yeah,
Despite the
yeah.
fact we recognize the voice.
Yeah, he just said, no planes, but you can still hear planes. You're in Pennsylvania.
Who's the other
but you
guy?
see, apparently they got an agreement with the Pennsylvania government to have no plane routes be over there.
Who's the other Forrest Gump being
Edward.
played by?
You
So,
know,
Basically, the best way you can describe this movie is the Weird Al Yankovic song, "Living in an Amish
everything you know
Paradise."
is wrong.
No,
Oh.
"Living in an Amish Paradise."
Also, it would have made more sense if you had this be on like a private island more than anything.
I think there were a couple of movies that did this this concept. Also, obligatory to mention, while obviously it wasn't this movie the inspiration, this also gets inevitably compared to the climax of Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright.
And look, for as much as I
At the
Wait,
very least, that
fans
one
do
is
that now?
more entertaining. It has colors, it has comedy.
yes,
So
look. I don't care for the twist ending in that one, but no, that one has more logic behind it than this one. Since Island.
even
but
beyond
yeah.
that, Jova, it's entertaining. This movie is
True,
just
yeah.
a drag.
Also, the way they shot that ladder implied that she jumped from the ladder over there.
No, he used it to actually have her climb the wall and then put it back near the jeep.
Oh no, I get that, but why? Why not just put it back in the truck of the
He was
Jeep?
thinking for a second. Also,
maybe Shu Takumi is a fan of this movie. Who knows?
Oh no.
I'd
Okay,
rather
okay.
think not. If not even
Okay.
Kojima can be bothered to care about movies like this, so I don't see why others would.
Okay, look, I get why some people might compare it, but no, the level and quality
It's
is
the
still
Kimba
leagues
Lion
apart.
King kind of thing all over again. Similar,
Yeah,
tropes
yeah,
and
yeah.
uses.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Obviously, that warthog is totally the OG
I mean,
Tomba.
also we say that, but the actual movie Mufasa makes me wonder if the people who made it actually had some tongue-in-cheek things to be delivered
Yeah.
references to Kimba instead.
Yeah.
Basically,
But okay,
yeah.
okay. This twist, though, holy cow. Okay, if you wanted to keep the hoax up, why not set it in a more modern time at least? I mean, granted, maybe then I guess they'd wonder, well, why can't we do
It's
this or that?
the
So
speech over from the AIs from MGS2. Perhaps we wonder if we may have liked more of a fantasy setting instead.
and
Personally,
yeah, in regards to the whole quest for Lucius,
Medicine.
yeah, he's not doing so good.
Personally, too, the only real major thing I got out of Mufasa is the fact that apparently we're getting live action Lion Guard.
Yeah, no kidding. Pedro literally had a Red Letter Media "I know what that is" moment at the very end. It was glorious.
Well, I swear, when Simba and Nala come back home to Kiara, and by the way, Kiara, this is your brother, and I literally lost my shit. I'm just like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? You're doing live action Lion Guard? You know what? Do it, you cowards. Go ahead, do it.
Anyway, yeah, that's basically the end of the movie. Liz has managed to find the medicine thanks to the forest guards snuggling in from Shyamalan's vigilant eye, and that's it.
What a fucking lame ass ending. We don't even get to see them hug each other,
Well,
reunite,
remember,
maybe.
Pedro, this was the reshot version that is a response to test audiences. The original one was technically even more abrupt.
Which,
Well,
okay.
it
To
sucks.
be fair,
Both
maybe
of them
Still
this
sucks,
one.
yes.
Okay, so okay, which is better, like them ending that with just her in the modern realm, or this at least giving some sense of closure to the Lucius plot? Where
Like I
yes,
said,
he will make it.
Like I said, my opinion, strong opinion on that is that if, assuming, mind you, that we didn't knew about the reason why the Elder created this quote unquote, exiled utopia, and we just had the impact of their, seeing over the wall and the fact that there's the entire world, that could have worked by virtue of us not knowing anything. It could mean literally or anything. It could be open to any kind of interpretation. And again, it wouldn't even fit Shyamalan's, artsy-fartsy period that he was going for around this period, this time. The idea that you came up to your own conclusion, as much as a cop-out it may be, but it also creates more of an aura of mystery and doesn't bother to accuse the characters of, doing their most heinous stuff that the final product actually has.
I will say the problem would have been that just leaving the whole thing with Lucius hanging would be bad storytelling. Like, I guess the thing is, though, is that at this time, Shyamalan was not really hot on the idea of sequels,
No,
so
not just that.
it would have been more like he would have left us just hanging because it would likely not have been
the
an
entire
actual
over-explanation
sequel.
is also probably because of his ego. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And again, this is where I bring back one of the conversations earlier. If you pay attention, there were a couple of times where the elders talked with each other and spoke in riddles, while however they were completely alone with no one in range of hearing what they were saying. Keeping up the charade even for that makes no fucking sense if you ask me.
Like, it makes sense for us, the audience, but it really does make you wonder if the twist was truly the plan from the get-go.
This is why what I mean. Maybe that was one of the original versions of scenes, and the idea in mind was to not over-explain what the elders did. But again, that's just suppositions and everything.
I do think that, well, obviously, since Elizabeth was blind, she couldn't see, so she can't reveal that it's a hoax.
Yeah.
But honestly, I feel like she should have at least surmised that something was wrong with the sound of a car coming about her.
Well, she doesn't know what that is, technically.
True, yeah.
And,
Which
and
is
if anything, remember one thing that should tip off is the fact that the forest guard gives her as medicine the vials that need to be used with a syringe, which is technology that they probably do not possess. So I guess it's just a case of he gave her a bag and told her to give that to the elders.
like, I get the point of it, but the big frustration is the elders never get called out for it. And it makes you wonder, what was the point? Like, it doesn't even feel like a lesson was learned because the elders never get called out for their machinations causing the near death of Lucius and arguably indirectly the death of God, Adrian Brody's character, Noah, yeah, like Noah technically will die because he couldn't get access to modern helper medicine in that regard. I don't know if that's what Shyamalan was going for with him. I'm gonna try and give him the benefit of the doubt, as hard as that is, but still, though, the ending doesn't. Well, okay, yes, Lucius is implied that he will
survive because of a medicine brought, kind of like with Balto, basically.
I mean, the most we get is like William Hurt's character, Edward, chastising Noah's parents for the fact that, well, congrats, thanks to your son's death, now the creature's legend can live on. But I feel like that kind of absolves him of some of the blame, too. Like, I get it. He's the one saying, oh, maybe we were wrong, but at the end, they're still doing it by the end. Like, what truly changed?
Anyway, final thoughts, Libs.
That was shit. Yeah, this is in my opinion, this is like the least entertaining bad Shyamalan movie. Everyone's on pretty horse tranquilizers throughout the movie in terms of acting, except for William Hurt and Bryce Dallas Howard at some point. Again, it's like a lot of other bad Shyamalan movies. James Newton Howard has to do a lot of the acting for everyone through his music. The film even looks sporty. It's not even an interesting looking village. It's just generic oldie town village, which it's not even oldie town. It's just a fake.
It's a Scooby-Doo plot when you get down to it. You have the kooks and criminals dressing up as monsters to scare people from going someplace they don't want them to go.
That means the truth is that the humans are the real monsters.
Oh, wow. Please give this man an Oscar for his brilliant, thought-provoking narrative.
The story before the twist was just really boring, with almost nothing interesting going on. The story post-twist just makes no sense. Like, no one heard a plane go over or heard any sirens go off or anything.
The government agreed with the elders not to fly any planes over, Dwibs. It's that simple.
You can still hear planes even if they're not right near you.
Now, don't you see, the government completely locked down anything within, like, audio radius, apparently.
In Pennsylvania.
Yeah, no, really, when you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, okay, they do hint that they're billionaires going off of that newspaper headline that these people are rich, but even still, at some point, that money is gonna run out unless they're somehow generating money from outside the community.
Wow, what do? Evacuate the village and then sneak in people for a guided tour?
Maybe.
Say, oh, we need to evacuate the village. The plague is coming. So they all leave and they give a tour. And then when the tour's over, they just go, oh, sorry. Turns out it wasn't the plague. It was the ones we daren't speak of, or whatever they're called.
Your most savageable actor from these.
Bryce Dallas Howard, I guess. Poor woman was saddled along with everyone else with a crap script.
And to give William Hurt some credit, that one scene where he's getting frustrated and angry, William at the very least tried. An attempt was made, at least.
He was the best actor in that scene, which says a lot.
Yeah, which is more I can say for almost everybody else. And this movie has Brendan Gleeson in it.
And Sigourney Weaver.
Honestly, I know that he probably had at least a couple, but I can't remember a single line of dialogue from Brendan Gleeson.
I think his one role mainly to cry over his dead son during the opening of the film, and then
he's still part of the elder community. We'll have to speak up a bit.
Also, hang on, wait a minute. Wait, hang on. I just realized something.
What?
a crappy movie that stars both Joaquin Phoenix and Brandon Gleeson.
Oh God, Joker fully ado.
But yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the thing. So sometimes maybe we shouldn't have certain actors be in the same room together. Otherwise, they just unwittingly create this big curse that just completely kills the movie.
I mean, like Hugh
Understandable,
Jackman
Gleebs.
and Liev Schreiber, who were
Or
both
Jared
on
Leto
X-Men
with
or
literally everyone else.
Yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine and what else?
movie 43,
Movie
I
43,
believe.
yeah.
43, yes.
Yeah.
You guys also
Yeah.
did not mention that when talking about Chris Pratt in Passengers. That's another bad role in his career.
Oh God, he was in that too.
More on that later. Go on, Liv.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've covered practically everything I wanted to. Yeah, there's a reason I don't exactly go back to this film at all, really, aside from this commentary. It's just there's no fun, there's no engagement of any kind. It's basically wallpaper the movie. This just doesn't work. I'd rather watch Lady in the Water over this. At least there, it has some ironic entertainment value, like the main character being called Story, and
Well-
Shyamalan's weird take on movie criticism.
I thought you were
That
going to say
and-
Shyamalan making himself Jesus, who will literally die for our sins.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
fuck, the only way that could be topped is if Zack Snyder did that. I mean, Lady in the Water would make a better Kingdom Hearts world. Yes.
Yeah,
He's-
true.
Damn it, he's right.
I would, considering it's a Warner Bros. Property, I kind of wish the Looney Tunes still did had shorts with our whole parodies of Warner Bros. Movie properties, so they could do something like that.
No. You see, Tia, what Space Jam 2 A New Legacy was missing was actually including a bit where Story shows up at the Space Jam game to help
Clearly.
save the day.
Yeah, I'm guessing Bryce was a bit busy directing certain Star Wars episodes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm done.
Alright, I'll go next, actually. God, this is just dull. Like I said last year, I had still some value to find in science in some capacity, despite the more polarizing tones of that. This, however, has barely anything that can be salvaged. My best guess was that in its original format, test screening probably would have made more of an impact. It still would have felt very dull, but probably would have felt less mean-spirited towards the end, because that's what ultimately kills this movie. One is about the twist about the supernatural not being real, which, as you can imagine, if you know me enough, you know that that kind of thing pisses me off a bit at the very least. But the other is the whole over-explanation on why this community was built. Like I said, if it was just the reveal that this is set, still in the future and this is an isolated area, it could have meant everything. Maybe this is like a time-dispersed pocket stuff that happened. Or maybe the rest of the world is in ruins and this is a fresh start for people. The potential is there to build up something. Shyamalan instead decided to make it a story about how people cope with their losses and the idea of creating a place for grieving and cultivating their solace, trying to have a fresh start for everyone. And once again, going back to the whole pitch meeting thing, that's not too bad of an idea when spoken just like that in a generic manner. The problem is that applied to the way Shyamalan did, compiled also with the boring, dullest, tone that he did, and the misrepresentation of stuff like neurodivergency, it's just not a good look at best. You cannot even get an ironic entertainment compared to stuff like Sailing in the Water or The Happening. It's just a big bunch of nothing. I joked about Kingdom Hearts, but as usual, there is nothing that can be worked on with here despite having very minor potential.
I feel like it stands in comparison to my complaint with After Earth as well in that regard. Like, After Earth, despite being set in the future, is one of his more down to earth.
That's also because you
kind
guys
of
did not
flicks,
mention the
essentially.
original concept for After Earth was supposed to be story set in regular times, in our times, about a father and a son going on a camping trip, but actually getting lost in the woods, and the father is injured, like Will Smith, and the son has to find help.
For all intents and purposes, that is still kind of what happens, just in the future. But
Yeah, with
my
sci-fi
point is,
elements.
M. Night Shyamalan also handles disabled people in After Earth, to which point I do say he did it badly. I mean, that more so had to do with the fact that it's the future, but apparently prosthetics no longer exist, even
If I
though
understand
we
correctly,
already
in that
have
scene,
those in the
the person
present.
had just been transferred, so I don't think it was a case of, he had been like this for a long time.
Ah, that didn't come the most clearly to me, but
No, well,
they
again,
seem to
it's
imply the
Shyamalan,
same.
so what do you
Yeah,
expect?
and they seem to imply the same thing with Will, like it's a great sacrifice and all that, which, yes, it is, but all the same, yeah, I think you have a point. M. Night Shyamalan does not have a good track record with handling disabled people physically or mentally in his movies. I don't want to assume the worst. I just think he doesn't have the writing chops to do it in a way that it will not rub a major sect of
Yeah,
people the
it's more
wrong way.
incompetence than actual malice, if you ask me.
Remember the saying, because the saying, do not attribute to malice what can be easily attributed to stupidity.
And with Shyamalan, yeah, it's easy to attribute stupidity.
Almost every single actor or actress is wasted phenomenally in this. I guess the one that got the best of out of all of this is Jesse Eisenberg, because he's probably at his best here. He can do a bit of wacky shit as he normally does, but his role is built up for that. He's not too much in your face, and he's not a big presence in the movie. Yeah, of all movies, this is the one that gets the most how to use him. Good job. It took apparently nobody took the right lessons from this, I guess. I partially kid because I did not mind him too much in stuff like Now You See Me, and I still need to see properly The Social Network to see what the fuss is about on that front. Most of the other actors are just phenomenally wasted. Brendan Gleeson, well, William Hurt, unfortunately, as we mentioned, is more like his natural element, but, and I guess Shyamalan wanted someone that could be an authority figure. Sigourney Weaver, phenomenally wasted. Adrian Brody, phenomenally wasted. Joaquin Phoenix, phenomenally wasted. I don't even remember what is his last line in the movie before he gets sadly, unceremoniously stabbed, and that's it. I guess easiest paycheck,
Yeah, he
I
spends
don't
the
have to act
majority of
that
the.
much.
Yeah, and yet he has like top billing in this movie.
Bryce Dallas Howard is fine. I still have my bit of issues on how a blind person is portrayed. Part of me wishes she was here to give us, more of her point of view on the matter. Maybe a third round in the future, if the time is, is right. Who knows? It's clearly also so that keep in mind the blindness is still a thing that is done mostly as a plot point, so that the climax, her tracking through the woods, and the ultimate reveal does not impact her completely, and she just assumes that she's stumbled into people or creatures outside of a wall in a fantastical kind of manner. Us, the audience, get to know that, but we don't run into a situation where she discovers the horrible truth and she has to keep the secret. She generally just feels she went beyond the gates of hell and returned with a reward. A classic questline. Again, I had to stress this out. I don't think Shyamalan is still good at conveying these messages, but I get them. I get what he's trying to do. I get the kind of themes and parallels that are trying to be conveyed here. My point is that there is a methodology to the madness rather than being just fuck all out of nowhere. It's just that this story needed to be in the hands of a better person, and unfortunately it's not really the case because this is the love child of Shyamalan, writer and director, so it clearly needed at least someone to co-write this, or at least a consultant of some kind. But because this was at the apex of his ego trip at Disney, he did not really have that, and the result is unfortunate. Again, I still like more Lady in the Water despite flaws, not even just in the ironic
Oh yeah.
department, but because I do really enjoy the idea of taking a fairy tale, applying that in a modern context in a world that has kind of forgotten myths and legend, and telling, no, these are still a thing, and you need to believe. Again, could have used a lot less ego tripping in that and the caricature of the critic, but on the concept alone, I like that so much better than this, even in part of the execution, because instead this is just a 90 plus minutes of borderline nothing. I couldn't really care even if I had chugged a lot of alcohol in me for this. I wouldn't say this is the worst movie he did, especially because recently, thanks to me and Pedro and Deji seeing most of his career, basically, we get a basic idea of where the bar is set. And honestly, both Glass and Old, in my opinion, are far worse movies than this. Probably,
Really?
probably Glass may be a slightly more entertaining, maybe, but it's still more infuriating as an experience.
Well, Glass is
And
infuriating.
all
Like,
this is
Oh
just
yeah.
unpleasant. I have to agree with Waves. It really is just a cool concept that is wasted on very, very gross stuff.
Fun.
Speaking of which, I don't even know what Shyamalan is doing these days. What is he working on after
well,
Trap?
he just recently released Trap, so I mean,
Well,
now we
that
have
was
to wait and
one
see
year
what's next.
ago. I wonder if he had already another project in the works, but alas.
Question: was Trap one of his good ones or one of his bad ones? Since
Dull,
Bad.
nowadays,
dull.
okay.
I wouldn't say it was completely unsalvageable, but still very dull and one much like the others have said for After Earth. Basically a passion project to try to launch better the career of his daughter, one of his daughters. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Well, I will say that the climax was definitely quite nuts and enjoyable as a result.
Again,
At
it's
least.
better than this because of that. And I will also say that for the most part, it's a movie that teeters on the edge of wondering is the person that is committing bad things gonna get away with it or not. The movie keeps you in suspense of that, admittedly. Compared to this, there is a bit of a hook to that. While, like I said, this is just nothing. This is a waste of potential in a lot of things, and again, still could have been savaged, but it would require substantial amount of care put into it from people, and at that point it might resemble something else entirely. So I don't know, let's just leave it where it is, a forgotten thing that in Europe at least you can just watch on Disney Plus and be glad that Kingdom Hearts doesn't have to touch this monarchy. Pedro.
It's boring for the most part, and it's also stupid. Like the motivations of the characters are stupid, and like I said, this movie doesn't have anything interesting to say. This movie basically boils down to, oh no, I cannot possibly grieve in a way that's healthy, maybe get therapy or something. No, all I can really do is isolate myself in the fucking woods for the rest of the world, because obviously if 2 or 3 people are evil, that means the only solution is to turn our backs on the entire world. Ugh. No, it's stupid, it's dumb, it's dull, the acting is mostly dull, the score is barely there, and yeah, like it basically boils down to just a bunch of shitty people doing shitty things for no good reason. That's all it really boils down to at the end of the day with these twists. Not to mention like the lie from Disney when I can tell that the marketing team saw this movie and they thought we can't sell this shit, so let's just market it as a monster movie. I mean, it will get asses in seats, I guess, for like that first screening, but then people will probably leave the theater and ask for their money back. Yeah, it's not great. No, it's not good, and definitely one of the Shyamalan films that I like revisiting the least because it's not quite as interestingly bad as most of his other movies.
Outside of the
So,
age, the entire reason why this generation happens is because, if I recall correctly, it's one of the commentaries where the audio of the movie bled in, so this was really much more of a necessity than anything.
mhm.
Mm-mm.
Java,
It's bad. Like, I didn't like it the first time, but now, being a more seasoned commentator coming back to this years later, it's even worse than I remember it being. That being said, it's nowhere near the worst M. Night Shyamalan flick I've seen, though I think that speaks more volumes to just how much he fell in quality. Okay, this movie commits two major sins that would kill it as a movie. It's boring, and when it's not being boring, it's kind of horrendous. Most of the actors are good actors. The ironic thing is, it's William Hurt who arguably turns in the best performance overall, which is just the magic of Shyamalan, I guess. Now, to be fair, Bryce Dallas Howard was definitely giving it her all here. I think she was overall fine. Well, okay, she does act scared at times here and there, but like, I feel like the movie just literally does not give her much to do up until the end, which, to be fair, that's kind of goes for William Hurt's character as well. Jesse Eisenberg, ironically, was one of the actors who was able to work well with that, but otherwise, Brendan Gleeson gets, like, maybe one or two lines. Sigourney Weaver, a potential love interest or not for William Hurt's character, feels absolutely wasted. And it's Sigourney flippin' Weaver. Come on. And it's not like, oh, she's a cameo or nothing. No. She has some of the highest billing in this, along with William Hurt and Joaquin Phoenix. Yet she barely does jack diddles. Now that I've talked about most of the character we see here, that's most of the movie. A little slice of life until Joaquin Phoenix gets injured, and then the climax is Elizabeth having to brave a forest, which would normally be easy if she weren't blind. But the oh-so-lovable community essentially sent a blind girl alone. Like, sure, they sent two guys with her, but they chickened out because the elders have convinced the generations below theirs that monsters are real, which gates them off from civilization and keeps them from getting modern life-saving medication. Like, yeah, that's the real despicable thing, is like, it's one thing if they want to be all on their own, but they force people, like, shoot. God, for as wackadoodle as Andrew... Well, actually, no, he did kidnap some people, but for the most part, it wasn't like he kidnapped all of America to go down to Rapture and all that jazz. Like, these are people who essentially took these kids and have effectively killed them in that regard. Maybe Shyamalan was trying to go for that with Adrian Brody's character. All the same, the way he portrays someone who is potentially on the spectrum is a yikes, because of course it is. And yeah, he's dead. I think the thing that's the most disappointing about the twist is nothing really changes because of it.
Mhm.
Like, the main character is blind, so she can't report on it. And even if she did find out about it, we never get a scene of her
It's clearly
confronting
meant to
the
be a
elders.
bittersweet ending in a sense that it's strongly implied that Lucius will survive, but the secret is kept safe as a result outside of all monsters kind of thing. And
Which means something like this could happen all over again.
it's in itself the kind of thing that they're going for is a tragedy as the conclusion of a very condensed version of the hero's journey, basically.
Yeah, and it really feels like they realized what a crap ending it would be, so they added in some last minute stuff like Noah's parents being told off by Edward. And like, sure, yeah, I guess that's supposed to make up for everything. And also the bit where the parents even mention, oh, he took one of the monster costumes, and here are all the clues that show you that he was the one skinning animals. Like, okay, why was he skinning animals even? Especially since, keep in mind, wasn't he trying to help them catch the monster? Like, was he doing that just for attention to make...
I guess one of your clues might be the fact that during one of the monster attacks, he actually giggles around. There may be a clue that he knows something more than is going on.
In which case, how convenient that his pranks just happen to line up with the monster costumes that the elders donned, essentially. Like, I don't get it. He wants to fake the monster stuff, but as far as he knows, monsters are real. It'd be like if in a medieval setting where dragons are clearly a thing, someone tries to pretend that dragons are a thing. Ah,
I forgot, Jova, and to an extent also you, Pedro. Have you ever seen the movie The 13th Warrior with Antonio
no.
Banderas?
I
I've
don't think
not.
so.
I've heard
No.
of that one. Have not
It's
seen it
based
yet.
on a book that basically can be described as an Arabian character that travels a lot, ends up in a Norse community plot basically, and that movie also tries to do the whole thing about something supernatural that gets revealed to be actually something instead realistic. I argue that movie did it actually better.
Alright, but yeah, no, like this movie just doesn't work. And yeah, unless I'm going back to riff on it, it's not even fun to watch. Like looking at it with a team like you guys, my pals and whatnot, that works out because together we can tear it down a new one. But man, it's kind of just a miserable watch. Like you'll get boring slice of life hijinks for the first half. You'll get a little bit of suspense for the second third, and then for the final climax, you get revealed how the elders were douchebags, utter douchebags, and I get it. Terrible stuff apparently happened to them. Terrible stuff that is mentioned in passing because, of course, Shyamalan being Shyamalan has to tell more than show. Okay, to be fair, he does give us stuff like the newspaper clippings, but I'm sorry, for all the suffering of the characters, I feel like you need to do a bit of a harder job showcasing why these grown-ups really truly felt the need to isolate themselves into a community, or how they managed all this. Like, yeah, apparently I guess they were rich enough to have the Pennsylvania government not have any planes fly close enough for them to be
Supposedly,
heard.
William Hurt's character had such a humongous amount of money to fund these operations for all eternity, basically.
Which is nah, this
And
just
to go
feels
back to the crossover,
cartoony.
just to mention, one of the reasons why the whole charade made sense there is because they actually had government funding.
Yes,
Just
yes, yes. Like
saying.
that was yeah, like that. Yeah, it was legit a government-funded experiment, which was a bit hokey in and of itself. But
It
I'm
made
willing to give
sense.
more leeway to the worlds of Ace Attorney and Layton than this, which is supposed to be dead stock, the absolute real world. And like I mentioned, private island there too. Like it was like not on any map or anything. Here, no, you're telling me that there hasn't been a plane, or hell, there hasn't been some jackass teenager who climbed over that wall for giggles and whatnot and hasn't disturbed it? Nope, it's all been perfectly kept and will be perfectly kept. Like, what a load. And I get it. It's a twist, and we don't always get a happy ending, but it feels like there's no point because things just go back to being the same. It's not even like, say, Elizabeth learns the truth and then has to grapple with whether or not she should reveal the truth or whatnot because she was blind and never put two and two together. It's just us, the audience, being informed that these adults have essentially crippled their children's lifestyle. Like, they may very well be the reason that Elizabeth is blind and doesn't have good visual aids or anything. I forget if we see anyone with glasses on in the village, but all the same, I'm willing to bet it's implied that modern medicine might have prevented Elizabeth from losing her sight.
Here's an idea. Since you're creating your own personal ancient community, your children are none the wiser. Just tell them that, okay, do everything like the old days, but still keep around the human medicine, and tell kids, again, since they don't know any better, that this thing just exists. Yeah, like that way you can protect your community with the modern medicine while still keeping yourself away from the rest of the
I
world.
guess, Pedro, if you remember, one of the traumas that happened during at one of the people involved in the grieving council was that one of their relatives or loved ones was killed by a drug addict. They might fear it will be a repeat of those events.
All in all, again, look, as is typical of Shyamalan plots, if you think about it for just 10 minutes, you can probably make a better script than him. I know. In the writing process, the writer is not always going to catch a plot hole. But Shyamalan's plot holes are big enough that you could drive Optimus Prime-sized trucks through. Like, I'm sorry, it comes off as more pretentious than anything. Like, he legit thought he had gold here, and if he had any gold, it was fool's gold, because that gold turned rancid, and like we've mentioned, the village was the start of his downfall, and looking back at it, I can see why that is the case.
Basically, Jova, here's the thing that I forgot to tell you about it. The thing is that you know how Avatar: The Last Airbender movie did had a lot of people in Russia actually go to see it and actually appreciate it for reason that escaped me. Something like this happened with this movie, The Village, where instead, critic-wise, the movie was actually relatively praised, of all places, in France, for this specific reason that I'm about to tell you. Apparently, the French critics who viewed the movie interpreted the movie as an allegory for post-9/11 American society and the Bush administration.
What?
Do you want to comment on that, Jova?
I'm guessing the idea is supposedly people were so disgusted with the world that they ran away, but tying that to 9/11 wouldn't make sense. Like, what good is hiding in the woods going to do?
I'm sure the terrorists will not find you there.
That's a stretch if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing. 9/11 was a terrorist act. Terrorists won't listen to the government who's supposedly trying to keep planes out. And again, and wasn't their disgust supposed to be with, like, criminal acts, essentially? Like,
it's a shame that TV Tropes does not credit us all of its sources, because I would have loved to see whatever French person made the review that included this majestic statement.
Okay, it seems like a lot of foreign countries thought that everything we were doing media-wise was about post 9/11 stuff after 9/11, which, okay, to be fair, a lot of our media did get edited because of 9/11. Like, entire movies had to be redone somewhat because of that. Most prominently Lilo and Stitch.
Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro.
Yeah. But that being said, no! The Village was not trying to be post 9/11. Like, even M.Night Shyamalan himself has not come out with that excuse, so where the hell was this coming from?
It's genius.
No, Village has as much to do with 9/11 as the Santa Claus movies have to do with ISIS. None.
Alright, that is
cow.
it. Alright, that's it for The Village. We still have 2 Shyamalan movies from our old catalog that needs a redo eventually, Devil and The Visit. All in due time, maybe next year will be finally the one where we can clear this fucking mess once and for all. Stay tuned for more Generations to come in general. See ya.
Alright, see
ya.
ya.